Hey everyone, it's Dr. B, and I'm here with Cynthia today. She's a
Hi,
mama
everyone.
and she's amazing. And she is our hot seat number 3. And I'm super excited to chat with her today. She's bringing a story and a challenge that I think a lot of families face sometimes, and it's not actually her personal story. So I'm going to let her fill us in on the challenge and the question, and we will go from there. So if you want to hear more about hot seats, you can jump on into school at, we'll put the link somewhere. I'll think about it in a minute here. But school, the Leave a Life Print Collective, spelled SKOOL.com. And you can check out some more hot seats where we try to solve problems with fast solutions on these hot seat calls. So with that, tell us the challenge, Cynthia.
Hi, everyone. I was doing a check in on one of my friends this morning just to see how she's doing. She's a single mom, is a nurse's aide, works a bunch of jobs, maybe 3 of them to be exact, just to keep. She's the single mom of a 14-year-old son. He's in junior high. And this morning when I called, just see how she's doing, just checking on her, she had told me that last night she was a victim of some violence from her son. Uh, Her son is at home quite a bit while she works, and so she will ask him to keep his room clean, pick up in the front room, wash the dishes. If you cook something, pick up, and it's this never-ending
Yes. The chores.
issue every time she comes. Come to find out from my boy moms that boys and cleanliness is a challenge. So um, this is another particular where she is back and forth, and I work so hard, and the least you can do while you're home is to wash the dishes and the sink and this, that, and the other. I get you the things you want. I let you play your video games. This is all you need to do. It gets heated with the back and forth and becomes where she was getting physically choked, what we call choked out. She's getting physically choked by him. She said he's bigger than her in size, to where he was continued to apply pressure, to where she said the only thing that stopped him is that she said, Siri, call 911. And then
Wow.
he stopped. And she called his father, and his father said, I will come get him. Her and the father are not in a relation. Uh, he has a wife and a whole other family of siblings, and she is the primary caregiver for her son. The father came and got him, and he's staying at the father's house. And it sounds like that is going to be a possible permanent solution for, I'm not sure how long.
Okay.
Again, she's still very emotional. This just happened last night.
Wow.
Come to find out, I'm devastated because, come to find out, my friend was almost unalived by her son, that she sacrificed a lot for. And Dr. B, I like your thoughts on this situation as a friend and a mom. We've been friends for about 14 years. How do I support her? What do I say to her? Um,
Yeah.
I'm a girl mom, and that's
Yeah.
a boy mom, and so I don't really understand that dynamic. Is there a difference in the dynamic in how parenting, and what do you do when you're the
Child.
victim of violence of your own child?
Sure. That's a really great question, and I'm so glad that you brought it here, and I'm so glad that you are a support system for this mom because she really must be reeling. Now, did you say how old her son is?
He's 14.
Okay, so he's 14 years
14. graduates from junior high
Okay.
this year. Like,
Okay.
no party for him.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're in big trouble, buddy. Which rightly so. This is very serious. I don't mean to make light of it at all. But just right out the gate, I want to make a really important point about development, right? So, child development, the nuances of how children develop and what they're capable of and what they're not capable of, and what's happening with them as they grow and change. So, a 13 and 14-year-old child, and particularly a boy, at this age, their brain is starting to reorganize, and their brain operates very similarly to it did the way it did when they were a toddler. So that
Okay.
whole me, my, mine, it's all about me. I can't take your perspective. I mean, just think about this, him being the brain of a toddler, but the body of a man. Now that is a very volatile, dangerous situation. Can we agree?
Yes.
Because toddlers can't protect themselves, let
Mhm.
alone can they protect others. So, so they have to, and if a toddler can't control their mind, right? Very well, like it's in that phase of like, I can't really stop. And hold on one second here. I need one quick pause. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Okay, so toddlers have this, the instantaneous need of having their needs met, and they prioritize their needs over everyone else's just because that's how their brain is, right? It's developing. So now think 13, 14, we're revisiting that phase again because now their brain's rewiring for the next phase of life, entering into adolescence and adulthood. So they don't have the same, even though they look like an adult, they're not, their brain is nothing like an adult yet. This is not an excuse. This is a warning call for this mama in particular that yes, she's right on in, saying I need to take care of myself and I need to protect myself, and thank God she was able to call Siri, right? Because that would have been a crime of passion. He didn't plan on, quote unquote hurting or, you know, killing his mom, but that certainly could have been the consequences. Okay, so pushing development aside, we threw out gender a little bit, and we could do a whole other hot seat on raising girls and boys, but in general, this is kind of a cross gender potential issue because the same thing's going on in girl brains, but it starts a little earlier, more like 11, 12, 13 versus the 12, 13, 14, or 13, 14, 15 for boys. But but, obviously, because boys are physically stronger, they're raised with a different level of tolerance for aggression, right? They have that surging testosterone going through their body as they're hormonally changing that they can't control. Like they can't control necessarily. Again, it's not an excuse, it's just an understanding of this package of a person that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a rational adult or a young child. We're dealing with this sort of hybrid, and um, that can be fine, but it can also be not fine. And in this case, it was not fine. So I guess we can go down two separate roads with this. And I would just say the first road is I'm really glad that he's now with his father. I worry, obviously, that he has this impulse. And what does that mean for the stepmom or for the other siblings in the house? They need to really be cautious and protective about that. And yes, I'm sure that young man is actually starting to also he's going to feel regret, he's gonna feel bad, and he's going to not understand what he did and why on some level, but
Mhm.
not letting him come back is a really at least in the moment, at least quickly, is without some protections in place, some serious protections in place for her, is important because she moms wanna all we always wanna just put ourselves out there, and especially for our children. We wanna say, we give them the benefit of the doubt, as we should, but at the same time, we can't put our lives on the line because if we're not here for them, nobody is. And
Okay.
he is being there for him by teaching him a big lesson about the importance of keeping herself safe. It sends a message to him about other women needing to keep themselves safe from men in some ways, like men can be dangerous to women, and that's important. That's an important message for men to understand and an important message for women to take seriously. Um, so in that sense, I think that the smartest thing she did is handle it that night, last night, remove him from the space so she could be safe, he could be safe, and now we go down the road of getting him support as well as getting her support. But not caving into the like, "Oh, I need to fix it for him." She's way past the fix it for him stage. He needs professional support. He already showed that he's gonna cross the line with her, and she can't.
Mm.
Like, she
Okay.
he told us how he can't control his anger with his mom last night.
Okay.
It's our
Okay.
job to believe him 100%.
Okay.
It happened once, and now it can happen again. The same thing is true with domestic violence. The same thing is true with, all kinds of places. When people cross a line, they're informing us of who they are, and it's our job to say, "Oh, yeah, I believe you. I'm gonna
Okay.
put the protections in place." Great
Wow.
messaging for girls as a mother of young teenage girls coming up. They need to know that. If somebody shows you who they are, makes you feel uncomfortable,
That's it.
that's it. Yeah. There's no, you gotta have safety precautions in place, at least at this point in history. As we do as even adult women, right? Like,
Exactly.
when you're safe with somebody
Yeah.
or not, or in an environment. This is a big job of mamas for adolescents, particularly young girls, but it's also true for boys. I mean, boys are victimized as well. So
Mhm.
that's that's definitely a, really important transition point from childhood, like that 7 to 10-year-old to that one who's starting to enter a bigger social influencing environment of friends and peers and social media and TV and movies and all of those things that, helping children, or young adolescents learn where those boundaries are solid. You don't cross the boundary here, and that needs to be set by parents, and if it can't be, then other things have to happen, right? Like, in this case, there's, a partner who or not a partner, but a co-parent who doesn't live in the same home, so that's ideal at the moment. But it can happen in a family where both parents are in the home, and then what do you do, right? So, this requires a support team, This is a bigger issue than just the fighting about cleaning the house and the chores and the food and the socks and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So So would you like to take it down that lane now? Like, how do we deal with a kiddo who just doesn't do their chores? Or do you wanna go deeper down the other road of the child who is potentially harmful or dangerous to somebody in the family?
I think the other route, but I have a question in regards to that.
Okay.
So he very much knew that he could overpower her. What if it was the opposite and he knew he couldn't? Or if they were in that physical altercation and she was able to fight back and overpower him, would still the same considerations be put in place?
You mean
That
if he just hurt her but wasn't able to literally take her.
What if he put her in a chokehold and she was able to get out of it and she struck him and she wounded him instead of the opposite way?
Okay. Um,
Would that those still dynamics still be put in place? There needs to be a boundary
yes,
because he
yes.
has
Because their relationship has crossed over from communication, from a healthy way of being in a relationship to a when there's a problem that we solve it with violence. That's the crossover. So whether
okay.
that violence goes from him to her where she has to protect herself, because really it's the same situation. She
Okay.
used fury, but if she had used her fist, it's still the same situation because he will grow and eventually he will be stronger than her,
Oh, okay. Okay.
right? So it doesn't it's just sort of the precursor, to what potentially is gonna come down could come down the pike that we wanna prevent. What we ideally want is for the 2 of them to have healthy communication that never, ever leads to violence.
Okay. Because I
Because
was wondering, Dr. B, that if the situation was if she fought him and she was able to, I guess, regain her physical power, would that have ingrained in him, oh, I can't go there because
no,
she can?
no.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that just very, very that will never teach him the lesson, that will only do other things, like, 1, he just got overpowered by a woman, which is very, uh,
Emasculating?
demasculinizing, yes, like, that's one thing. On top of it, it's his mom. And whenever anybody gets harmed by anyone physically in order to stop them from doing something, just pushes that anger and resentment deeper, which then when it
Okay.
comes up the next time, it's gonna come up even bigger.
Oh, wow.
So this is why
Okay.
we don't spank toddlers because what we're doing is we're just pushing that resentment and anger. They can't help it. That's who their toddler brain is. Me, me, me. We need to just love that period and be glad that it only lasts a year because you know, but as soon as they're, you know, harmed physically and they don't understand how to process any of that, it just becomes anger and resentment held in that will ultimately burst out the next time and the next time more and more and more.
Oh, okay. All
Yep.
right. So, Dr. B, I think I would like you to go down because I was want to revisit this and continue to have a conversation where she feels supported by
Mhm.
me because she doesn't really have a community that she
Yeah,
would be vulnerable telling this story to.
sure.
Um, or that if she did, she doesn't have people that would then have a conversation with her that is supportive and positive and uplifting. And, I have this platform, right?
Yeah,
I
and
have Leave
she
a
can
Life Print, I have Dr. B, I have the community.
yeah,
Yet does not have this community.
right.
And so I have a lot of guiding behaviors, considerations, things to think about, different ways to parent And again, I have girls, and so I want to know. I like to go down the other way of how do I support her as a friend? What do I say to her that where she feels empowered? Because the mom guilt has.
Ooh, power,
I have my 14-year-old baby that now I'm giving to the father for full-time care,
right. Yeah, the
and
mom
all the sacrifices and things that I've done,
yeah,
and it's come to this
yeah.
that.
No, that is not the true end. There is none of this. It's a pause. Like, she needs to think, "Okay, no, this is just a pause in history. That young man is gonna come full swing back to her. It
Okay.
just may not be for 5 years or
Oh,
4 or 10. I mean, we don't know. But
okay.
he will come back to her. He will if things get handled, eventually he will come back to her, I guarantee you, no matter what. That will happen. We don't want that to happen instantaneously just to get back to where he was. We need him to come back to her on his own with his loving self and his mature self and his self-control towards his mom, not this, frenetic, outbursting, violent self, right?
Okay.
That he can't control. So on the one hand, he's a very scared little boy with a lot of power, a lot of muscle, right? And that can
Mhm.
be really hard to control when you're a young adolescent boy. They've never been in this weird situation where they can overpower their authority figure. And, that's confusing, and he also has guilt. You're in the greatest position, and this is what I want moms from this platform and out in the world to do, is to be supportive to mamas, because the best thing we can do for our children, whether they're right here in front of us or all the rest of the children in the world, is to support the mamas who raise kids. It's hard work. It's the hardest thing we'll ever do, and we beat ourselves up over this job more than anything else we ever do. But in reality, most mamas do everything they do, even if it's, abusive or harsh, because they love their children so much that they're afraid if they don't do that and they don't know what else to do, then their children will end up dead or end up in jail or end up addicted or end up all of these other things. So, in reality, all mamas are trying to do their best. So when other mamas reach out and say, "Hey, come on, I'm gonna help you. Like, we can do like, I'm a support for you too." That's the most powerful way to ultimately help and raise resilient children going forward generationally, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so, are there any phrases or conversations that I need to have with her that would let her feel that she's supported?
Yes. So I'm gonna give you a cheat sheet on the post when we post this hot seat in the platform, okay? So you can maybe print that and have access to it or give her a copy of it. She can, of course, always join us here, and she can be totally anonymous about this being her. If she just wants to come and read or, get access to resources or, you know, listen, she can totally do that. Nobody has to share anything that they don't wanna share. And, so that's always fine. I do have, she can watch my YouTube channel, which will also have hot seats and things going on in the trauma-informed care and resilience training that helps people to view parenting as from a trauma-informed lens rather than a punishment discipline lens that we kind of you and I have talked about this before, like, we just kind of culturally um, embrace rather than thinking of parenting as feelings and teaching rather than discipline and behavior and punishment. We think of, parenting as a communication, right? To take somebody on a journey that's multifaceted. You know, they go through developmental stages, they have these hormonal phases, they have social phases. There's so many different phases, but we try to really integrate all of those pieces together so they make sense and we can communicate with kids at all the different stages because it does change. And I will give you some phrases like for you to say to the mom, like, I'm so happy that you took the steps that you took last night to protect yourself.
Okay.
Like, that's so powerful because it says in so many words, you could even say this, "I would have done the same thing."
Okay.
Any any parent in that situation would have done the same thing. That was a really great call, and you know what? I'm proud of you for making it. I know it
Okay.
was scary, like, just really validating her as a parent and there's a lot of other things that are feeding into this going to that getting to that point, but it's not her fault. It's not her fault, and her child isn't bad, you know? This doesn't define who he is as a person as a whole. It is a marker point that says, "All right, we need to focus on this because this could get bad. This could get worse, or this can be an absolute turning point for him, and he will never touch another woman like that again, including his mom." That's what
Okay.
we want. That's what we're hoping for. Um, and who taught him that? Who would have taught him that lesson? His mama.
It is. Mhm.
Yeah, that lesson would have come from his mom. And so that's really, really important and staying connected because here's what happens a lot of times. We often we often in the crisis, it happened yesterday, we're there, we're supportive, and we, have all the right things to say, but she's still probably dealing with a lot of shock and a lot of like, "Oh my gosh, the fallout from this event happening, and in about 2 weeks, you'll everybody's kind of is over it, and now it's sinking in for her like, what if I died? What if my son did this and then he went to prison for life?" Or, all the what ifs start flowing in about 2 weeks, and everybody's over it, and they moved on. So in 2 weeks, I'd say put on your calendar or just put on
Okay.
your calendar, every 3 or 4 days, check in with her and say, "Hey, how are you feeling about that now?" Or what are you feeling like are your next steps? And just be a support system for her
Okay.
through this and remind her, this is not the end of the story. He is not gone forever. All teenagers, their job as adolescents is, and you're a mom of teenagers too, so I'm gonna prep you for this. We need to be done with you, mom, because we've got our own independent growing to do to figure out who we are, and you're gonna seem like the last person they wanna be like, and at 25, guess who they're gonna replicate?
Oh, me, huh?
The mom. The mamas or the parents as kids tend to, they become autonomous again just like they were as toddlers. Like, they have to break away to find their independence, to be a separate being with their own identity, and once that they get all that worked out in toddlerhood for the first time and then really work it out in adolescence, then they enter into young adulthood and they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I figured out who I am. And now you know what? I really like my parents. I didn't like this about my parents, but I really like this about my parents. And I really love my mom and I really love my dad." And, they're sorting out that relationship with their parents related to their identity, not becoming their parents. It's like
Okay.
that Geico commercial, like, "Don't become your parents." So So, but it's painful, like, it feels a little, rejecting, But in reality, if your children are starting to push you away to the sidelines, even though it doesn't feel great, we can celebrate that. We should celebrate that because it means they're right on track with their development.
Okay.
So that is a
With
good thing.
individual.
I feel it with my granddaughter. My granddaughter is 11 and a half now. And, she used to just run in my house and she loved to be with BB. And now she's like, hi, you know, like,
Mhm.
you know, but I also
Mm.
know that, our relationship, I just, I tell myself, okay, don't intrude in this period of development because we don't want her to be globby like she was at 3. Or, all babies are at 3. They just wanna, be all over you. But now
Mm.
she's in that spot where she's learning who she is, and your girls are in that same boat too. They're a little step ahead of her, but, they wanna find out who they are separate from us. And I'm not even her parent. I mean, separate from her parents, but also from her extended people. So,
Okay.
this is a great time to have amazing women in their lives, or if boys too, amazing men and women in their lives. We want to expose adolescents to amazing people other than us so they can just start to take that information in because it helps them define the parts they like and the parts they don't like, and the conversations that are important to have about values, like sharing your values and listening to theirs, even though they will likely challenge them and horrify you sometimes. It won't last. It's a testing zone. We have to think of early adolescence as a testing ground, just like it was for toddlerhood, and they're gonna
Okay.
fail a lot. One more thing, they did a research study on adolescents 13, 14, 15, and they put them in MRI machines, and then they showed them pictures of people with, like, a surprised face or a sad face or a happy face or whatever, an angry face, and what they learned was if you or I were in that MRI machine and somebody looked gravely distressed, we would be like, "Oh my gosh, something terrible happened," you know? And what did the adolescents say? "They don't look that sad. They don't look that sad." No, they weren't really that mad. It was fine, they weren't mad. And I think, wow, I look back on that, and we have this expectation that our adolescents can read our emotions. But if our emotions are not really big and explained to them, instead their brain's going, "Oh, she's not that mad." And we're livid. You know? "You didn't clean your room, we're mad," and they're thinking like, "It is not that big a deal. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" So isn't that interesting? That there's
Yeah. Very.
of time because their brain is growing and changing and moving, and it doesn't have time to really tune in to other people's emotions. Because their brain is working too hard to manage all these changes going on. So that takes a little chunk of time, but we as parents have to say, "Stop. I need you to take this in seriously." Like, we need to be really conscious about our simple instructions that are valuable for them to know and for us to deliver. Because otherwise, if it's just a fleeting like, "Hey, pick your socks up," they're like, she doesn't really care. She didn't mean it." Like, that's now how frustrating is that if you're speaking two totally different languages, right? No joke. So, research is powerful and it's meaningful and it fits into all of this, which is why, parenting is so hard, but when we're able to put it into the context of neurobiology, development, healthy social relationships and communication, it makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. You're never gonna look at your girls the way you did again as adolescents because of that information. The
Mm.
next time they just dismiss you, you're gonna be like, "No, look at my face. I'm really, really sad." Like, "Do you see how sad I am?" 'Cause if you don't show them, they won't know.
And it's not Botox.
Yeah, and it's yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
so anyway, so
okay.
even just sharing a little piece of that with your friend about her son as an adolescent, his recollection of this experience is going to be so much less dramatic than hers. But the truth
Oh,
is, she has to be and remember that she is the rational adult. She has the better memory in this situation. His brain's swirling. So
oh,
don't
wow.
so don't get gaslit by, like, "It wasn't that big a deal. She wasn't really gonna." So that's another thing important for her to know is that, you know what, this is an easy situation to get accidentally gaslit in because adolescents do that accidentally all the time. But it's our
There's
job
a
to know.
there's another question, Dr. B. So he's not in the house with his mom. He's in the house with his dad. But
Mhm.
again, his mother was the primary caregiver, not the dad, and even the visitation was hit or miss.
Okay.
So if he shows this kind of aggression, would the next step be to put him in like a group home or something? Would he need to
Mm.
also be removed from? Will they need to look at that as? Should they be thinking ahead? Maybe I should ask that.
Well,
What if this?
I wanna say no. Not like I my answer is no. The dad has him in custody right now. I do think they should be thinking ahead as a family unit, that this is a family situation and everybody has a part in it. Rather than, you know, sending him straight to a group home is gonna be the ultimately probably gonna have the worst consequences. Because what's he gonna learn in the group home?
Nothing.
Reinforcement of nothing good, right?
No, we'll be teaching him that we really won't deal with the situation. We just keep removing him and
Exactly.
not really. Okay.
And it's not that much different than a toddler. Rather than pushing them away when they're, naughty or when they do things that we don't like because 'cause they're so egocentric and only care about themselves, instead, we pull them in and we say, "No, we're gonna have a time in here. We're gonna have a
Okay.
time in, and I, mama, and you, son, and potentially dad will have a very serious conversation that keeps me safe as the mama, but we need to start working this out into a way of communicating that don't lead to you being aggressive or violent. So you have a healthy way to communicate, and I have a healthy way to communicate. And maybe I contributed by avoiding that with you. Or
Okay.
maybe like everybody can take responsibility for their parts. I don't want her to take responsibility, but he's
Hmm.
definitely hurting. I mean, he's hurting. He didn't do this
Okay.
to be mean. He didn't do this to be bad. He did this because he was out of control. He literally his brain saw red. He couldn't regulate it, and so he went to violence, which is
Okay.
terribly, terribly dangerous and is what happens in domestic violence situations that,
Mhm.
often end in death, but or severe harm. So we wanna, like, get him off that roadway, but at the same time, when we don't have healthy communication with somebody, everybody's bringing a piece to the table, so we need to engage some professional help, you know?
Mm.
Maybe he needs somebody to come in and support them in their house. Maybe they need some really, um, maybe they need some parent coaching on a steady basis with him for a little bit to get things on track, because
Okay.
that's really, as tempting as it is to just push it all away and say, "You know what? I'm done. I'm throwing my hat in." The reality is that this is one of those moments where as hard as it is, we need to lean into the pain and
Okay.
try to, work it out as best we can 'cause not gonna get fixed in a minute because he's an adolescent. He's gonna turn 15 next, and I would argue 15 is harder than 14, so, um,
Mm.
but 16 and 17, it starts to go the other way. You start to see a little sunshine, you know? So so it really isn't where we want to, this is why we don't wanna throw kids into, adult prison or jail or juvenile hall because, their brain is not the same as an adult brain, and a lot of people who commit crimes don't have adult brains either. It doesn't mean that they can be free. It doesn't mean that they can be, you know, not held accountable, but, um, when we really think about this from a physiological and emotional and psychological perspective, there's a lot more going on than just good, bad, you know, it's not that simple, and in some
Okay.
ways, it is that simple, like, we can just go in and say, "You know what? This is communication. This is emotional dysregulation." Every time this is the other thing, and then we'll wrap up, but the other thing is that every time she goes into like, a communication with him, they escalated together, right? And then it went into explosion. What she needs to work on is not going into that up here. She needs to go into that down here, lower than she can almost tolerate, like, so regulated and calm that this is his problem, and he can fix it or he can not fix it, but the consequences, he's gonna have to manage. You know, this is not about him doing the dishes for her. This is about, "It's your job. I love you. It's your job, and we're not moving forward to the next thing until you do your job." Just like when I go to work and I have to do my job. You know what I mean? Like, there's so
Okay.
much less potency to that kind of conversation. And he
Mhm.
can escalate it. He wants to escalate it because then they get in a fight, and guess what? He doesn't have to do the dishes because he can
Yeah.
storm out of the room. But if he comes
Mhm.
right back out of that room and says, "Okay, can I play my video games?" It's like, "Oh, um, you got the dishes done? No." "Oh, okay, well, that's, that's your job, so let me know when that's finished," and then just walk away. See how, like, way less
Mhm.
emotionally amped
Mhm.
up everybody is?
Mhm.
Even I feel more calm
Oh.
saying that. 'Cause it's not about you and me, it's just about this thing. It has to get done, it's your job, not mine, so I'm not gonna get all wrapped up in your woo-woo about it, and she'll have to tolerate those dishes sitting there for 1
Mhm.
day, 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, but those are the patterns that get wired in. Every single day, she's working a new wiring in his brain, like, "Wow, this is real."
Mm.
So and she's not gonna be doing this in this situation because he's not gonna live with her right now because that's not safe. But I would be thinking not so much about pushing him to a group home, but I would be thinking immediately like, "Okay, what's our support system and what do we do and we need help." So we need to get real people in here helping, whether that's a social worker or some sort of a men's club organization. I don't know. Like, I would have to I'll think about that when I do a cheat sheet at the end, but, where are the supports? So
Mhm.
that is not the only option that feels doable. Because if dad bails or dad says he's gonna do that, that's gonna create a whole different level of trouble for everybody.
So at this age, he is not thinking, okay, so now he is now in the new home or the new environment now full time. Is it not in his mind to look at the size of the people he's currently living with and thinking, oh, I could take them, I could not, as far as showing aggression, or am I, is that a whole different age range or consideration?
Well, I don't know the situation and, so I'm not speaking from a clinician's perspective or a therapist perspective, but as a developmentalist, I don't think he's thought that one time since he got in his new environment. He's like, "Thank goodness I'm away from her because 'cause I'm mad at her. I have a little bit of guilt maybe." But right now, guess what it is? He's gonna be at that house for probably 2 weeks, and it's gonna be a honeymoon. His dad's gonna be like, "I don't know why your mom couldn't control you. You're a perfect child." How many times have we heard moms say, like that happen? But then a month will hit, and everyone's tolerance at that house will have
Mhm.
reality will start to settle in, and that's when we start to see the real version of him in his father's house and those dynamics play out, and we have to be prepared for that because right now everybody's jockeying for their new positions because we put a new person in the house. It's just like when you add
A
a
new
pet to the
dog or a
family.
cat or
Yep. It's the same thing. Everybody has to, you know, figure
yeah.
everybody else out, but he's not going in there. Remember, this was not premeditated, "I'm gonna strangle my mom because I didn't wanna do the dishes." That happened because their communication escalated and hit an
Mhm.
explosive peak. And then his
Mhm.
brain went, "I don't have anything to do other than just grab you right now."
Okay.
That's so
Okay.
much different than I'm gonna lay in my bed and I'm gonna get everybody to weigh themselves so I can see, I bet you I can take this one, that he's not doing that. That's more like in the serial murder. You know,
Okay.
he's not there. He is not there. Like, this is so, you know, my professional judgment is that this is turnaroundable.
Okay.
This is not destiny. This is just part of the very difficult journey, and it's a difficult road and highway, but if everybody stays on the road and highway together, it will lead to a good place. It just doesn't seem like it right now.
Okay.
So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Dr. B.
Yes, well, oh my
That was
goodness.
really insightful. The Yeah, that was really insightful, and I feel a whole lot uh, more secure in supporting her.
Yeah. Good.
And this, which is a tough situation, to
S Mm. Well, I'm so
then
glad
what
she
she do
has
with this.
yeah, I'm so glad she has you as a friend, and certainly you can share this video with her, even just, copy it from
Mhm.
the platform, you can invite her to the platform, whatever works, but, yeah, yeah, she's lucky to have you as a friend, and I don't believe this young man is at the point of a throwaway kid. He's you know, I wanna say this one last thing, there might be other things going on with him. If mom's working all the time and he's home all the time and he has influence from other people and potentially we haven't asked about who's got access to him, who are there drugs, are there alcohol, is there other stuff
Oh,
going on, right? So we have to do a whole big assessment about, what's going on with him in order to see what's going on with her because we haven't resourced his mother that she has to work 3 jobs. Like, that's a society issue. That's a problem that we create as a society, not resourcing and supporting our moms so they can be available and accessible to their children. And, that's another part of this community that I really hope that eventually, generationally, we change. We say, "You know what? The most important people for healthy, resilient children to grow up with are strong, healthy, supported mamas." And of course, their dads too, but, um, But mamas
Mhm.
have a really, really sacred place in children's lives. That's different. Not that dads don't, but it's different. You know, they've lived in our bodies from when they were eggs, and they lived
Mhm.
in our mama's bodies before that because you were an egg and they were already an egg, and it's very deep, that connection. And so we wanna respect that relationship, especially before we throw it out to,
Okay.
a system that won't care about him. Let's yank his bones into a system, his family with supports that does love him, because she loves him to death, even though he's
Mhm.
almost unlovable at the moment, you know? But
Yeah.
but I promise, and you can say this, I promise you that he will come back around. He will. It will take a minute, but he will come back around and appreciate the things that his mama has done and said and been there for him. So, all right, with that, so great to see you. Thank you so much. Leave a
Thank
like.
you. Thank you, community.
Okay, and I will see you, yeah, I'll see you soon and see you in the community. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.